Hey, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Brian Wohl.
And I'm Marc Muszynski.
And this is My Favorite Friendship, a show where two best friends look to favorite friendships in history to help us to become better friends and better people in modern day. And, what better time than right now, right? There's always a good time for friendship.
It's true.
And even though we can't see people, I don't know. I love this. I'm into this.
I feel like, so everyone likes true crime. This is true friendship.
And it's real stories of friendship from real friends. And since we only podcast with our friends, we also only podcast for our friends. So you guys are now our friends.
Welcome.
Isn't that great? I love it.
We're glad
it makes me happy. Oh man, Marc, I got a zinger of a friendship for you this week.
Do you? Well, I'm excited. It's been a long week. I could use a good zing.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we recorded this, over the weekend we got to celebrate Passover together with our friend group through a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
And Passover is one of the friendships Passover is one of the events that I think we as a group of friends really embrace. Even some people who aren't actually Jewish, just the celebration of it and the message about freedom and, aspiring to freedom and equality for everyone, I think just really speaks to, it speaks to a lot of people, but I love how we've embraced it as a friend group and we do it every year.
Yeah, there's something about traditions and doing traditions together that is so important to friendship. Friendships need tradition somehow. It doesn't need to be a holiday, but some sort of tradition, I think, is important to a good friendship.
I totally agree. And I think it helps friendships early on when it's just, say something like, oh, we always meet at that Starbucks or something. Anything that can take your friendship and map it onto the real world in some way, whether it's a day on the calendar, a place you always go, an activity you share. That's sort of what you need to get beyond the initial strangeness of encountering a new human being and get into trusting and appreciating and getting to enjoy the company of that person.
Yeah. Well, these folks, they did have some tradition. Actually, they had a very important tradition that I'll get into, this friendship that I have. So the friendship I have for you this week, Marc, is the hilarious friendship between Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So Carol Burnett, famous comedian. Lucille Ball, famous comedian. Carol Burnett had the Carol Burnett Show. Lucille Ball had I Love Lucy. Desilu Productions, which produced so many amazing shows, including Star Trek, among many diverse properties that Lucy had. She was a complete mogul, and before Lucy even was on I Love Lucy, she was a famous stage performer and had already been in films with Bob Hope. She worked with the Marx Brothers, the Three Stooges, you name it. So Lucy was a powerhouse. Now, Carol Burnett, considerably younger, 22 years Lucy's junior.
Wow. The
way that they met was Carol Burnett, before she was a famous comedian, really wanted to be a Broadway star. And she was pretty successful.
Yeah.
In her Broadway star career, because she actually got to be the lead in Once Upon a Mattress in 1959.
Wait, the premiere of Once Upon a Mattress?
Yes.
She originated that role?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. Congratulations, Carol, wherever you are. I assume you're listening.
Before she was on Once Upon a Mattress, what really made Carol Burnett famous was she sang about, the Secretary of something. This doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the friendship. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But she became famous singing out of John Foster Dulles. I forget what his job was in government, but he was known for being dull, and that's how I remember him, is Dulles, dull.
Isn't there also an airport named Dulles or something else?
Yes, Dulles Airport. Yeah, so she became famous actually singing about this guy like he was Elvis. And then she eventually got this part on Broadway. in Once Upon a Mattress. So by this time, Carol Burnett is 25.
Wow.
So she's still very young. Lucy at this time is 44. Goes to Once Upon a Mattress, loves the show. Goes backstage, wants to meet Carol Burnett. How about that? Just reaching out to this younger actress and just tells her how much she enjoyed her, how much she enjoyed the show. Carol Burnett was just so nervous, she said. And Lucy called her kid all the time. She'd always call Carol Burnett kid. And, I Love Lucy had already been on television for 8 years at that time. I think it came out in like 1951. So Lucy was very, very famous. And she said, when she left, she said, if you ever need anything, kid, call me. This is the key phrase in the relationship, Mark. If you ever need anything, kid, call me. Because 6 years later, Carol Burnett was on the verge of getting her first television special. And the executives, I think it was on CBS, they said, we need you to get a big name.
Ooh.
So we need you to get some big names for this special.
Yeah.
So Carol Burnett called Lucy. Carol Burnett said, this is my big shot to get a big special. I need a star guest. Would you do this with me? And and Lucy said yes.
Wow.
And the special was called Carol plus 2, because it wasn't just Lucy. She also got Zero Mostel, the Broadway star, who was
Tevye, right?
He was Tevye. Yeah, and the original producers.
Wow.
Zero Mostel, big Broadway star. So it was him and Lucy on the Carol Burnett special, Carol plus 2, in March of 1966.
And so they had met and then not interacted at all for 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not really. Carol Burnett was too scared.
I mean, I don't blame her.
But she felt like, all right, it's time to play this card. Mm-hmm. And she did. Now, because this special was so successful, Carol Burnett then got offered the Carol Burnett Show. And that debuted the next year in 1967. Lucy then appeared on the Carol Burnett Show 4 times in the first 4 years of the Carol Burnett program.
Wow.
So she just was there to help be let's get this kid over. Let's keep this going.
Yeah.
And she really did what she could. Now, not only that, Mark, it goes beyond just professional appearances. There aren't a whole lot of evidence. There's not letters or anything, and there's not a whole lot of them hanging out.
Yeah. I don't know that Lucy had lots of time for hanging out by all the accounts of her sort of work ethic.
And same with Carol Burnett.
Mm-hmm.
So get this. Carol Burnett got pregnant, and Lucy was the one who hosted Carol Burnett's baby shower.
Wow.
It was a black tie event baby shower with husbands and boyfriends in attendance. And it was an evening affair. So Lucy organized this whole thing. And her husband was the one who, Lucy's husband, whose name I forget right now, was the one, it wasn't Desi Arnaz, yes. It was another guy later, was the one who would take out the baby gifts and make wacky comments about everything. Now, there's evidence of this because Carol Burnett has talked about it in multiple interviews, but there is one interview, I found it on YouTube, and it's Lucy was on the Dinah Shore show, mm-hmm. and they surprised Lucy with Carol Burnett because I guess she was taping Carol Burnett's show down the hall.
Yeah.
And so Carol just came over and talked about this. And to see the joy on Lucy's face as Carol is, beaming, describing all this stuff is so amazing. I highly recommend looking it up on YouTube to see, how much these two really admired one another. And so I guess Lucy organized this event. Everybody wore black ties and evening gowns for an event. Carol Burnett, I remember in the interview, she said, I was so pregnant. I was 2 years pregnant. She said, whenever I got up, I fell over again. And just everything. She said it was so crazy. But she said that evening was the funniest night of her life. She said that event Lucy threw for her was the funniest night of Carol Burnett's life. So I like to imagine that when I think of these two hanging out. Now here's where the tradition part comes in, Mark. Every year for Carol Burnett's birthday, Lucy would send Carol Burnett flowers and say, "Happy birthday, kid," and the flowers. So they stayed friends. And in 1989, Lucy died. And Lucy died on Carol Burnett's birthday. And sure enough, Carol got flowers that day in the morning. "Happy birthday, kid," from Lucy. And then she died later that afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. That's really touching.
Yeah.
And there's so many stories about people, stars of any kind who would feel competitive, like a younger person coming up.
Yeah, here's someone to take my spot.
Yeah.
Here's somebody. Yeah. She wasn't like that at all with Carol Burnett.
No, she embraced her. She helped her give birth in some ways.
Yeah. Not only to her show, but to her first child.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's awesome. You can definitely have a professional relationship for someone without throwing their baby shower.
Yes.
And you can really love a coworker without wanting them in your life that way. And so it's very cool that it sort of transcended beyond cordiality,
Yes. There is a clear, and unfortunately, there's photos of them together. Most of the photos of them together are from the Carol Burnett show.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff. That's why I say, if you get the chance to look at this Dinah Shore interview.
It'll be in our show notes, which we are committing to have by the time this gets released.
It's really revealing just to see the love between the two and how happy they are. But you can also see that they're both just so damn busy that this is really all they ever get. Mm-hmm. Some people might say these things are fake or whatever. It's not fake. It's not a fake. You're laying your reputation on the line for someone else. And it's not fake if you're throwing their baby shower for them. Mm-hmm. Friendship doesn't mean you have to see somebody every day. Friendship doesn't mean you have to talk to them every week. You can still have a deep friendship and not see someone all the time. Friendship comes in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to measure it. And this is clearly a beautiful friendship, even though they might not have hung out very much outside of work things and then the major life events.
Yeah. Which is, I think, as we get older, how a lot of friendships become, especially when people start having kids. But what I think is so cool and smart about what Lucy did throwing that baby shower, she could have just said, "Hey, everyone, women come over to Carol's house. We're all going to exchange gifts. We'll have mimosas," or whatever the popular thing to have was in, the 1960s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But she made an event out of it. And what I think is so cool about that is it became something that probably lots of other friends who maybe would have attended or maybe would have attended briefly also then committed to. I think there's a real power. And I think, kind of circling back to what you're saying about Passover and lots of other things that I think have helped us and our group of friends stay friends, is making an event out of something.
It really does. It makes it special. It makes lasting memories.
And it makes it feel like more than just another day. When if you want people to come over, you could say, "Hey, let's all come over." Or you could be like, "We're having a chili cook-off." Maybe some people would be turned off by the idea of chili cook-off. But maybe they shouldn't be your friends anyway, because chili cook-offs are great. But if you I don't know. I think there's a lot of power to eventifying something, just putting in that little extra thought to make it special. And it just brings out a little bit more from everyone.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of tradition. I don't know where it comes from because my family isn't super into tradition. I don't know where it comes from. I really don't. but it's been something that's been very important to me.
As a kid, I definitely was. I'm less so now, but I remember as a child, we had traditions like on Christmas morning, we would always have blueberry muffins, and there was some sort of set times as to when like my parents would wake up and when we would open presents and what we would eat. And I think this probably isn't that uncommon. But I remember when we first started getting older and my parents were like, what if we just slept in a little bit more now that you guys are older? And I was so upset. I'm like, no, we start at 8 a.m. every year and we got to have the blueberry muffins. Don't tell me you don't want to make the blueberry muffins this year. And to the point where we have them every year still. And I don't have to fight for that.
Good.
I don't even know if I like them anymore. I mean, I do, but it's not important because I yelled at everyone so much about it as a child.
It's something, I don't know, traditions is something that's also used to kind of mark the time. Mm-hmm. It's weird. I don't know, but I feel like traditions are so important to friendship, and seeing Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball's tradition of just, that happy birthday kid flowers. I know, like, who knows? Maybe it was Lucy's assistant sending it, if you're like really cynical.
Yeah.
You could say it's Lucy's assistant sending it to her. But Lucy still made sure it happened every year. Like, even as cynical as you want to get, I don't know, if you're keeping that tradition, it does say something.
I totally agree. And I think when it comes to traditions, there's kind of, I don't know, it's sort of like any tradition. You want it to be meaningful for what it was in the past, and then also kind of meaningful for where you are now. And if you can accomplish both those things, I feel like I've always had like really rich experiences with friends, with family, with everything. And the times where traditions don't feel as fun is when you're like, we're just going through the motions that we do every year. Or they don't feel as fun if you're just like, we're hanging out on Christmas doing whatever we want. It's missing one or the other of those elements.
Well, this has been an amazing talk about the friendship of Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball. There's so many clips of the two that you can look up online. We'll find that clip of the Dinah Shore interview to put up. Please give us a follow on Twitter. I am at Brian Wohl and Marc is at Marc Muszynski. Talk to us about your favorite friendships, anything that you're going through, maybe something you want us to cover. We'd be down to do that. Until next week, this has been My Favorite Friendship. I'm Brian Wohl.
I'm Marc Muszynski.
Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week.